Welcome to the Wednesday Dialogues, another episode with me, Captain Preetham Madhukar, TEDx speaker and Amazon best-selling author of Three Culprits: Laziness, Fear, and Doubt. I'm also the founder of Skills Beyond Education, a learning and development company. And today I have an amazing guest with me, Taiba, who is a personal branding coach and exactly something, especially if you're an influencer, if you're a coach, and a person that you need to connect with. And I'm really excited to be learning a lot. And Taiba will be sharing some amazing strategies and tactics for you. Feel free to drop your questions in the chat box and it will show up for us. And we'll be happy to take this up. A session I think for anybody who's in the coaching business should attend, especially if you're a small or a medium kind of a coaching business, and you'll make the most of it. Taibas, thank you so much for coming here. And I also like to thank all the viewers who are, tuned in today. Thank you so much for taking time out. I'm really hoping that you'll have many breakthroughs and amazing session today. Thank you so much. Thank you, Taiba, for taking time out and joining me here today. And I'm really excited to ask these questions. Up to you.
My pleasure. It's great to be on the show, and I'm really excited to share my insights on personal branding.
Super. Let's get started on that. You've been working in this space for quite some time now, and you've been helping coaches. While coaches are busy coaching people with their strengths, whatever may be their domain, they also need sometimes to be coached on their own personal branding, right? And I think you're in this segment, which is really helpful for a lot of coaches. And I've been following your LinkedIn handle, and I've every time I go there, I get some great value from your post. Something I try to implement. Thank you so much for that. And to ask you a question, there are big coaching companies or big companies as such with deep pockets. They are, in a way, they have their own teams. They're doing all this stuff to brand themselves. But for people who have just started off coaching or who have probably been coaching for a while, and they're doing some amazing work. I meet so many people doing some amazing work, but nobody knows about them. Nobody even knows they exist or they're doing this kind of work because they don't come outside and tell the world or tell what they're doing. So, what are your thoughts about this kind of things that people are going through?
Yeah, so people who are building out their personal brand, people who are starting out or in the intermediate stages, I think it boils down to just couple of elements, which I would like to highlight here. Uh, a lot of times when I talk about personal branding or branding in general, people have this thing that it needs to be about design, it needs to be fancy, it needs to be very different. But actually, personal branding is all about creating your persona, creating that authenticity, creating that authority in a very very silent manner without even telling people that hey, this is what I stand for. So, for all those people who are building their brands, that is what they're doing. They understand that personal branding is not just about design. Yes, design is called the silent ambassador of a brand.
Mm,
It is a very big part of your brand, but that's not your complete brand.
mm,
You, your face, your persona, your authenticity, your authority, that is your personal brand.
yeah,
So yeah,
and yeah,
yeah,
you keep talking about this create a compelling persona, and I keep hearing that you keep telling that and how important it is for people, coaches especially, influencers. So, what do you mean by create a compelling persona? What is compelling persona for you?
okay. So when I ask in my coaching sessions, what do you understand by a persona? 90% of the people say it's your personality.
Mm,
But personality is a very large thing. You can't portray your entire personality on a social media site, not possible, because personality only very near or dear ones can know, because
mhm,
it's such a huge set of things. It is set of things like it tells when a person will get angry, when they'll be happy, how they are personally, professionally. It's a very big set. So we are not talking about personality when we are talking about persona. Persona means it's a subset of your personality. Now, again, there's a very slight nuance in that. When we say persona, a lot of people start, and when we say crafting a persona,
Mm,
people start thinking that we have to fake it out or we have to craft it. Again, there is a very uh, slight nuance to it. It does not mean being fake or superficial. Persona means being known for a particular thing, for two or three things that you want to be known for, uh, and what you stand for. People should be able to look at you and understand. So, for example, if I take example of Captain Preetham only, his book, his podcast, all the things that he does, they all are around high performance, coaching. How do you get into high performance? So you have built that persona very, very well. Also, the other day I was, analyzing the book,
okay.
and actually, when I analyzed the book, there was a very beautiful thing that I found in your book, the hardcover.
Hmm.
When you have a hardcover in a book that says that this book is, because you don't throw books like that, the books that have a hardcover. That book says, I will stay in your shelf forever. So again, that shows elitism also, and that again revolves back to your brand. So maybe that was a conscious decision, or whatever your approach was. But I just want to tell is what persona means is crafting your, it is like a subset of your personality wherein people understand, and the moment they look at you, they understand. Okay, this is what this person stands for, and also it is like you uh, branding and all these things are very silent processes, in the sense that you make noise but in a very humble and in a very silent way,
Mm.
in a way that you say also, and still people you
Know
know
what you're doing. Yeah.
yeah. So it's you don't have to be very out there also, and you don't have to be very hiding also.
Mm.
It's a very subtle thing that you do
Yeah.
through the things that you're putting out through your work, like the
Mm.
example that I gave of your book. That
Mm.
that cover itself is an elite cover.
Mm.
So that speaks of elitism and elite coaching, and that revolves back to your coaching. So again, persona means putting out your authentic self out there. And again, there are components of your persona also. It is how you dress your profile, your visual elements, how you communicate, your copy, right? Your social proof. So they
Yeah.
all will come under your persona.
Thank you, Taiba. Thank you for all the compliments you've been showering on the book. Thank you so much. And I hope people, readers who haven't read yet, go and pick it up. It's available on Amazon. Three culprits: laziness, fear, and doubt. And thank you again, Taiba. I will share the link a little later. And for now, let me share Taiba's, where you can find Taiba. Especially, she's very active on LinkedIn, and it's a great place to connect with her, reach out to her, ask your questions. If you are not following her, please do follow Taiba on LinkedIn. There, she's very active there. And drop your questions if you have anything, especially if you're a coach, influencer who's looking to ask some questions about this domain. Then Taiba is here to explain and share her wisdom. And I'm happy to ask her these questions. Share it in the chat box. It will come to me here. So, Taiba, it reminded me what you shared, reminded me of a couple of things. One of them is I remember my boss telling that no matter how hard you're working, doing what you have to do when I was to sale, that you have to also blow your trumpet and tell that you're doing this. Otherwise, nobody knows you've done great work. Nobody knows you've been doing all this in the back end. In fact, I tell my team that as well. You guys are doing great work, but I need to know as the boss here that you guys are doing great work. Otherwise, I'm thinking that maybe you're not doing the work, right? So they had to, that is also a branding at a very, you can say, basic level of branding.
Right.
And if this is your profession or this is what you're going to do as a coach, then branding becomes so much more important because people have no clue that you're doing great work.
Absolutely agree with you on that.
Yeah. And so what, there is the other question of the branding, Is it just about dressing up? Is it just about being in a particular way? And so questions like these sometimes maybe very basic arises. What should I do? Or should I have branding mean? Should I have always a particular color in my post? So that's a common question sometimes people ask. Should I always have my brand colors and not make any other post? What are your thoughts on those kind of questions?
Yeah, so the concept of branding itself, so the first question was the concept of branding, how it translates into your entire business and everything.
Yeah.
So, when we decide our brand vision and all of those things, when we decide our brand colors, it is by default, it becomes like, okay, if, for example, if my brand colors are black and yellow,
Mm.
so if I'm putting my banners, whatever I'm doing, it is all going in that colors.
Okay.
Ideally, every post, everything that you're doing, it should contain those design elements. Even like if you consider companies like Apple, they have the same kind of fonts
Mm.
in all. Like so, they maintain this system of having similar fonts, similar colors, black and white. White
Mm.
is their like background color. So every brand does it in a very subtle way. And when it comes to online branding, it is again choosing the right brand colors, the brand colors that excite you or represent your brand. So
Okay.
every color has a different color psychology. So how those colors connect with your brand, and
Okay.
obviously, I feel that your post or your fonts, everything that are coming from the colors or the things that you have decided, they should come in your products. Let's suppose you're creating a course and you have a theme of black and yellow. So it should translate in that course also, your logos, whatever you have, it should come everywhere.
Okay.
So,
And what about, like, sometimes it can be overwhelming, especially if you're a solopreneur or if you're just starting off small teams. And like, what should, if they have to focus on one thing or two things, maybe they don't have, maybe they're goofing up on the brand colors and doing this and that. What can they do to say that, hey, this is my me, this is my brand? What kind of things they should focus on?
I think if you're not able to have proper logos or proper designs, if you can just have that proper connect through your content and through your comments,
Hmm.
because these two are very big parts of your connection with your audience or how people know you. I remember when I used to comment like very voraciously on LinkedIn, I used to get invites from people saying, "Hey, I read that comment. That was so good." Or sometimes it's through a content piece also.
Yeah.
I read your content piece. I found it very very useful, and that's why I'm connecting.
Mm.
So, I mean, through your content and comment, you maintain that, whatever you stand for, you start sharing that. And, I always talk about, whenever you're sharing content or I mean, whatever your niche is, it should boil down to that. So, even if you're sharing some stories, whatever you're sharing, it should boil down to your niche, your
Mm.
central niche. So what happens is once it comes down to your niche, people remember you. You're sort of hammering that idea again and again. Hey, I stand for this. So a lot of times I write varied stories, I write lots of things. But at the end, it all comes to how I'm branding myself through the power of stories.
Okay.
Right? So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. That content and comment. It's a nice way you put it. Easy to remember. And I think like how you have positioned yourself as a branding coach, and everywhere, your content and what you're talking about is on the personal branding. Is about helping coaches. So in a way, that's exactly, I think, what people should focus on. And I mean, I remember sometimes people reach out to me after so many months, sometimes even years, saying that, hey, you've been working in this kind of thing. They remember it. I probably would have forgotten what I would have spoken, but they remember the space that you're working, and you get a client or somebody who signs up for some programs. Right? I think
Mm.
that's the power of branding that you've been emphasizing, most of us to take up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And what about like we know branding in like in the digital space, we have to do this, a lot of things are there. We'll come to the digital space, but before that I just want to go a little back and in the offline space, right? When we meet people outside of the digital world, what is branding there as a coach?
So again, as I said, for me, technically, branding is about just your persona, whether it is in the online or the offline space, whatever, whoever you are, your entire, your persona. Then your authenticity, like, your journey, being honest about it. I started with public speaking, storytelling, right? That was
Mm,
how I started back in the day in 2020.
okay.
So I
Mm,
still, share a lot of storytelling strategies in my sessions also, and I
mm,
ask people to storyfy their content because I feel that stories are the most powerful ways to connect with your audience.
okay.
So because that has been my background, it's very honest and genuine to bring back those elements. Also, other thing that we can remember is also never forgetting that authority. Yes, we have to be authentic, but that authority factor needs to be there. uh, that can be in a very subtle way, but that authority needs to be there because if people don't feel that authority, I've seen a lot of, see, uh, you must have seen this pattern. If you start giving some advice to a family member or to a friend, they would chuck it. Why?
Yeah.
Because you are that person to them that they've known for
Mm,
so long, and they don't take you so seriously.
mm.
हिंदी में कहावत भी होती है ना, घर की मुर्गी दाल बराबर.
Yeah, yeah.
So I've seen a lot of my close people also sometimes that they have a lot of faith in everything, but it's like that element of authority must also be there. Because
Mm,
sometimes I found this thing that when I got too friendly with a client, I lost that client.
mm,
Because your clients are not supposed to be your friends. You are
mm,
supposed to be friendly but not
mm,
a friend.
mm.
And this I learned the very very hard way. I mean,
Yeah.
after struggling with some stubborn clients and a lot of things. So again, you have to have an authority, uh, and you need to be assertive about who you are, what you charge for. You know, uh, it should be there, because if that authority is not there, that person will not take your coaching or your program or whatever expertise you're giving in a serious manner. And that is a loss for both of you, because you have something which might be $1 million thing to the other person, but that other person is not, because his mindset was not set the right way by you.
Mm,
I always say that you need to set the right expectations. um, so in offline world also, it is more about building your the same persona should translate. And of course, there are elements of how you dress up. Like for me, I like to dress very very modestly. There are other people who dress very very they have a different style of dressing.
yeah.
So whatever you are comfortable with,
Mm.
something which expresses your style, which is impressive and which is comfortable. So
I think you got. I think that beautifully you captured this point, and it reminds me of the uniform in the sense, treat it as your uniform, whatever is there, whatever that means to you, right?
you
Like
have a uniform. I think there's nothing like it.
yeah, I mean, like a doctor's uniform is what? Wearing a white
Right,
coat. If the doctor speaks without the white coat, you'll be like, theek hai. But the moment he wears a white coat, you have more authority. A lawyer wears the black coat, more authority. A police
right.
wears more authority, right? Of course, armed forces and everybody. I think the coach also should think that what is my uniform, whatever it may be,
Mm,
right? Simple, flamboyant, this, that, and that's your uniform, right?
mm,
And then stick to the uniform. If you're working, of course, if you're in with friends, be what you want to do, but in your work hours, you're in your uniform. I think I mean that's one thing, but to ask you on the what you shared, like I can clearly see that branding definitely builds authority, like you mentioned, right?
mm.
And what other benefits are there when people build their brands, personal brands?
So many. If I start counting for my own self, I mean, I've got so many speaking gigs because of people just knowing me. So many of my clients come through watching my content, or
Mhm.
they enroll in my offer just because they saw my content or some testimonial or something. Also, there is this trust that is increased because in coaching you need to have two kinds of audiences.
Mhm.
One is your old audience that you need to keep nurturing, and one you need to create new audiences.
Mhm.
So, for creating new audiences on a consistent basis, branding is very, very crucial
Okay.
because your old people know you, who you are, but uh, after a while, when you have coached them, and they have even taken your premium levels, and maybe
Mhm.
they have reached a certain level, and not every client will renew with you after a year. Maybe they
Mhm.
have different commitments.
Mhm.
So that is why, because you need new sets of clients also, and to uh, remain in that persona of I stand for this, and he come here and be my client. So that is supported. Creating new audiences is again a very big part of branding.
Mhm.
Again, authority is built, because I always say that branding is humble bragging. Humble bragging is branding,
Nice.
because you are not being obnoxious about your achievements or anything, but at the end of the day you are sharing everything.
Mhm.
Also, people get very deeply connected with you also as a person when they see your journey. Because I say that personal branding is not just it's not there's no end. Like for example, if you take examples of like big celebrities, why is Priyanka Chopra writing books?
Mhm.
Why is big short stars Karan Johar producing these shows? Because why are big stars starting their own YouTube channels? The very simple answer to all of this is because they all want to tell their own narratives in their own voice, in their own manner. They
Mhm.
don't want to be interpreted or misjudged, or they're doing that, and they're building up their brand through whatever activities they're doing.
Mhm.
So I think branding has in long term lots of good benefits,
Okay.
and people who take branding seriously, uh, I always say there's no limit to what they can achieve. Because if you are constantly in the eyes of people, if you're constantly bringing something valuable, you're teaching something which they need, then big companies can come to you. I keep seeing small influencers getting endorsements from big brands. They are getting work from companies like Dove and all. And
Okay.
why? That is only possible because, see, 10 years back, no one would have thought that even a random influencer on Instagram or wherever can get that kind of ad by Dove.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
now it's totally possible because of branding. Because branding has, I think, put made the field very, very level playing.
Okay.
Everybody is at the same level, and especially with the advent of online, it's become much more simpler. It's like how much are you dedicated to your audience, and how intensely are you connected. Like yesterday, I was not feeling well, so I just shared a post. In fact, today also in the morning, I wrote a post. Yesterday, I shared a small screenshot that, hey, I'm not doing well. Please pray for me. Hundreds of people literally, sent their prayers and all of that, and it just lifted me like anything, and it made me understand the power of community and the kind of connections that people have. So I always say that branding is, again, it's a journey. You have to take people on a journey, and
Yeah.
it has lots of long. If you're just playing it for the short term, maybe it won't give you those big bucks or those things. But if you are in it for the long term, there's just no limit to what you can get. Now imagine Rashamani. He is speaking on elite stages just
Mm.
because he has built up his personal brand up to a level wherein, Big business tycoons, their PRs are wanting to
Mm.
push those people on that podcast.
Okay.
He's going to business schools to deliver sessions on building personal brands.
Yeah.
So that's the power of personal branding. You have to be in it for the long haul, not for the short term sprint.
Yeah,
But
I think I like the way you spoke about storytelling, how important it's like your storytelling of your life, not just the good parts, you're telling the whole journey of
yeah,
you growing and you changing, you helping people. I think that's the part of it. And before we continue, let me just, welcome the viewers who have just joined in now. I have Taiba with me, who's a personal branding coach, who's an expert, who helps people, coaches and influencers, scale to new heights. And thank you, all the viewers who have just joined in now. I'm Captain Preetham Madhukar, host, elite performance coach. And one of my USP is to help build willpower or will strength, which in turn helps you build discipline, focus, consistency. And I've also written a book which became an Amazon #1 bestseller, Three Culprits: Laziness, Fear and Doubt, and a TEDx speaker as well. And thank you so much for coming here. This is our Wednesday dialogue. And continuing on our personal branding insights from Taiba, who's been sharing these amazing nuggets. Don't forget to like, share, follow, and leave a comment, ask your questions, and we'll be happy to answer them for you. So, Taiba, continuing ahead, what is storytelling? Before we move on to the digital part of things, what is storytelling? And can you share some, you know, three things, important things that people need to keep in mind for storytelling?
storytelling is basically you going from point A to point B. That's I feel, the most simplest definition of storytelling.
Nice. Okay.
So storytelling in itself, when we talk about storytelling deals with change. Any story is all about change. If you see any good movie or any good book, it all tells that this was how it began. These were the conflicts. This is how the conflicts were overcome, and this is the takeaway message.
Mm.
And what what is the entire journey? It's a journey of how a person was at point A, he was something else. It was maybe his version 1.0, and he maybe became a 2.0 or 3.0, whatever that journey is. Any good movie, Slumdog Millionaire, a guy from Dharavi won, that contest, he became a millionaire, and, that became a movie. Right, so basically, storytelling is that. And three things that you can keep in mind about storytelling is uh, a good story is, again, number one, it has to have some change. If uh, if there is a story which has a lot of adventure but there's like no change.
Mm.
For example, if somebody tells, I went to some country, let's suppose I went to Dubai, just taking an example. It was so beautiful, had the best food, and people get bored of hearing those because it's not a story at the
Sure.
end. But if
Mm.
somebody said that I went to the so and so country, and from there I learned the lesson of humility, or maybe I went to Japan and I saw how people are, so active in their daily activities. I learned how to do stuff for my own self, doing the dishes, cleaning the house, sitting down, and these small rituals that they have, and it increases their lifespan. And there's a shift of perspective that happened to that person. That's a story. So number one, whenever you are planning to share a story, it needs to have an element of change.
Mm.
Second, is a character, a relatable character, a protagonist. Don't have too many characters, one, two, three maximum. One main character and maybe other two, three supporting characters. And that too, the more relatable you try to make it for people, the more they're able to connect. For example, if you're sharing a story in India, Indian names, Indian things work better. If you're sharing the same story, maybe the story is the same, but if you're sharing it in US, the names and the cultural elements change. So
Context. Mm.
relatability needs to be there. And third, I think good stories have good dialogues. So I think if you can spice stories with good dialogues, so people always remember that. So yeah.
I think brilliant. Recently I've been thinking of writing some stories for my articles. I've been, just postponing it, something or other. And I think your tips are going to be right off, into my uh, 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 next article.
Yeah, just because you just shared that, so maybe I'll share a small template also how you can share stories in a better manner. So these are some three tips that I shared overall how you can make stories better. But now I'll share you a template if you like 3 or 4 step template that can help you create stories in a
So,
much more better manner. So
yeah,
number one is you always set up the context.
mm.
Uh, I can also narrate a story here.
Yeah, that will be great. Yeah. And then explain the concepts. I think that will be wonderful.
Yeah, just give me a moment. So, just so okay. So, for example, okay, I'll share the story first.
Mm.
So, the story is of a young boy. He's 12, 13 year old. He's a teenager, and he one day wakes up. He goes to his father and he says to his father, "Father, what is my life's worth?" And father says that this is a very very important question. We're not going to get an easy answer for this, so tomorrow come back to me, take a shower, get dressed, and come to me. I will start sharing the answers step by step. So next he waits till the next morning. He comes, takes a shower, get dressed, goes to his father, and his father says that he places a stone on his hand, and he says, go to the local market, and when somebody asks you the price of this, just raise your 2 fingers. Don't say anything, don't sell it, just come back, whatever happens. Okay. So he goes there and he shows that in that market, and there's an old lady passing by, and she sees that stone and she says, what a wonderful stone. You know what? I'm going to pay you 20 rupees for this. So the boy is not supposed to say anything because he's only supposed to show his two fingers. Okay, so wraps up that stone, comes back, and he says, hey, father, you know what? When I raised the 2 fingers, that lady said 20 rupees and she was just ready to take it. He said, but no, you don't have to sell it. So next day, he says, okay. Now, next day, he again says, come back again, another task I'll give. So again, next day, the boy comes. He places that stone on his hand again and he says, now go to the museum, and when that archaeologist asks you the price again, you have to do the same. The instructions remain the same. Go. So the next day, he goes and he shows that stone to the archaeologist, and that when he asks the archaeologist, "What's the price of the stone?" So he's just pointing to saying
True.
nothing. So the archaeologist says 2,000 rupees. So he says he doesn't say anything. He just wraps it up.
Yeah.
He brings it back. Now the third day, the father again puts that stone in a velvet, sheet of cloth, and now he has to go to the jeweler, and the jeweler again, the instructions remain the same. So again, he places that stone, and now he goes to the jeweler and shows it to the jeweler, and again, when the jeweler asks the price, he just shows the 2 fingers. Now this time the jeweler says 2 lakhs.
Yeah.
Now this kid, he is like he just gets
Excited.
the kid wraps his stone, goes running to his father, and he's jumping with joy, and he's saying to his father, father, what happened today? This jeweler, he told me that I'll buy the stone for 2 lakhs. It could have changed my life, and I still could not sell it. And his father goes on to say that, my dear son, the lesson from this activity was that your life worth is the people that you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
And such a beautiful way of sharing a lesson. That could have been told in a normal factual manner also. Okay, your life is very very important, right?
Very important. Surround yourself with right people, and maybe the lesson is lost. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean that's the beauty of storytelling. I mean there's a context, okay, then there's a problem,
Mm.
and there's a solution, and
Mm.
finally obviously there's a takeaway message that sometimes you tell that and sometimes you don't tell.
Mm.
Right, in movies they don't tell us the takeaway message,
Mm.
we have to interpret it on our own,
Yeah.
right? So whenever you're writing a story there should be a context, how things are starting, how the problem came, and what's the solution, and then
Mm.
obviously the takeaway message. So this four step format if we follow in any story we can write beautiful stories.
Yeah, I think great story. Can you just recap again for me and for the viewers?
Yeah, so this template, okay,
Template, okay.
this template or the story.
No, what are the 4 points they need to keep in
Okay,
mind?
the first is the context.
Context, okay.
Context means how things are starting. What's
Mm.
the starting point?
Mm.
So this for this boy, the starting point was he doesn't know the life's worth.
Mm.
Uh, Problem again here the context because it's not
Yeah.
separated. It's
Mm.
the same only here.
Okay. Mm.
The problem is he doesn't know his life's worth, and the solution was his father telling him his life worth through those activities that he did. And finally, the takeaway message was your life worth is as much, whatever
The
people
lesson.
get to.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you build up the context. Okay, this is how the story started. This is how the hero faced the problem.
Mm.
This is how he
This is
solved it, and this is
and this
the
is the lesson he learned from that.
right. Yeah.
Beautifully captured. Very nice.
Yeah.
And I'm sure people who are watching and can get some breakthroughs, especially if you are writing articles for your post, for your book, and anywhere else. Some great ideas and tips Taiba shared, and hope it's a breakthrough. Don't forget to give this a like, a share. I'm sure many people will benefit as well. So, Taiba, continuing, what about writing a book? How important is it in personal branding? And yes, coaches are trying to write books so that their messages, not just for now, it's book is like, it's
Hmm.
there forever, kind of they say. So, what are your thoughts about writing a book and branding?
I feel that writing a book is a very beautiful idea. It's a very good idea, but again, you have to be clear about what you're getting yourself into.
Mm.
In the sense that if you have not served at least 100, 200, 500 people, and you are planning to release a book without having served some people, I mean,
Mm.
if you have built up certain brand and there are people, there's some kind of audience for this,
Mm.
then that marketing becomes a slightly easier, not very easy,
Mm.
because I always say writing a book is on only 20 30% of the process, and marketing it is much larger. You must be knowing it. You have written a book yourself.
Yeah.
So marketing that book is a harder process. It needs to be well planned. So I think for me, I'm not writing my second book, uh, and the reason is that because I want that for the next 2, 3, or 5 years, I want to take my brand to such heights that when people know my name, they're ready to buy whatever I have.
Yeah.
Right. So if you have that kind of brand name and then you release your book, so slightly that marketing cost, that marketing efforts slightly go down. You don't
Okay.
have to push so hard. Also, that credibility is higher, so there's a different. You can also get a chance to actually be published by bigger names. So I feel that you must be clear that there's a lot of effort that you have to put into this. Writing is just one part, because for most people who are beginners they think writing is the beginning and the end,
Mm.
and writing is just a very small part of the process. Marketing is a much larger process.
Yeah.
And if you're planning on, like, I know a friend who's into writing for many years, so he told me that you should at least once in a lifetime try to publish your book with big names like Penguins or something like that.
Mm.
So why he said that is because he said maybe, and you should actually hire an agent. You should have proper processes for that, because he said once you get those kind of publishers, then the kind of branding that you get, it takes your personal brand to entirely new heights. And after that, whatever you write, there are much more avenues open to you. So yes, I mean, be calculative about what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah,
You are confident that you have served 100, 200, 500 people, go write a book. But if you're still not there, I think serving people should be on your cards as a coach first.
yeah. True that, true that. And although I might just vary a little bit here in the sense that what I advise some coaches, who are part of my program as well, that write a book for a simple reason that it takes a certain level of courage to become vulnerable, to be judged, criticized by others. Not everybody is going to like. Some people will love it. Some people may say, "Hey, what is this?" And but that takes a certain before you go on to help somebody else, that hey, I'm ready to put myself out there, right?
I
And
think that's a beautiful perspective in itself. So again, I think to each its own.
yeah, of course, I'm just talking from not branding, but from the
Yeah,
coach's own self development perspective,
yeah, yeah.
not exactly from a branding perspective as such. Yeah.
Also, then people start having these high hopes that okay, if
Yeah,
I
don't
just
don't write
only
it with that. That is absolutely what you're so spot on. Don't write it. Okay, it's going to be this. I'm going to make a million there on the books or any such thing. It's just that your ideas get a platform. In fact, I remember being told old times that if you want to be good at something, read a book, and
mm,
if you want to be great at something, write a book.
mm,
Because when you have to write, it means you have to research or you have to think about it, you have to collect your thoughts. So what happens is automatically your learning becomes 10x. Now you're
mm,
not consuming, you're producing what was consumed, or you have to refer to others books or other speakers and things. So this first perspective was because you're coming out in courage. That's the thing. I'm not talking from branding. The second perspective is you are getting more clear of yourself or your program or your the goals or whatever your message you want to give becomes more clear, even if there's just one reader. Again, this is not for money or for branding, simply for yourself, what you need to do.
mm,
So this two things, if people, especially if you want to be a coach, then these two things, do it for yourself. Of course, don't think about it being, if you get anything more, it's a bonus for you, take it and go. And what Taiba mentioned was, if you want to take it to next level, then yes, you need to build that follower base. I remember, Tim Ferriss, I think, or another big name author, he was telling that for 2 years, he built his fan base through blogs, articles, and once he had a million subscribers, big names were ready to publish his book because they didn't have to do the work. All he
mm,
had to do is say that he's publishing here, and people were going to buy in hundreds and thousands of them, right?
mm,
So I think that's a great strategy, especially from a branding perspective, of building your follower base and then pushing it on your on your fan base who like your content. That's why they're there, and they would be the best thing. Yeah, super. So coming to some digital strategies. What firstly, what kind of pain people come to you? What kind of issues they have when they approach you? If you could, give some insights.
So first, there are pains on the pure branding side. So when we talk about purely branding side, it comes like they don't know how to optimize their profiles.
Okay.
Some people don't, even before one step forward, if you go, people don't have an idea to position themselves.
Mm.
So their niche, their positioning,
Yeah.
then they don't know how to, optimize their profiles,
Yeah.
write content, how to comment better, how to engage better, how to storyfy their content.
Okay.
One second. So these are some of the things that I have seen, that just because you're not able to share your journey or just tell that, hey, I stand for this is where I'm coming from, so it makes a huge difference. So these are from the branding side, but beyond that also I help people in the sense that there are people
Mm.
who have done little bit of this, but
Mm.
now they are not getting leads, organic leads, right?
Okay.
Then again, branding helps a lot in that also.
Okay.
When people
Yeah,
don't.
yeah, that's a great insight about the kind of things people struggle with. In fact, I myself struggle with some of this, and I mean, there was nobody to ask around. I had to do a lot of research, time waste. My LinkedIn was totally not such a great place, and I realized, hey, I need to work on these things. Though we can see impact with people's life, people come back with great testimonials and comments, that I realized that, hey, I was not telling the world what I am doing. The kind of stories and personal changes they're seeing, and that's when I realized, little too late, that this is something that I need to focus on as well. And I think for coaches who are just getting started, please don't do that mistake. Find yourself a branding coach. Find somebody who can help you position yourself better, so you can hit it off much better without wasting 1 or 2 years or more life.
Also, I would like to add one more point here, that when I started off, like 3 years back when I started off, I used to feel that I have to go on all the platforms. And this is
Yeah.
a very big mistake.
Okay.
Why? I'll tell you. Because every platform has a very different audience, very different algorithm. Every platform is just very, very different.
Yeah.
So, what works on Instagram might not work on YouTube.
Yeah.
What works on Facebook might not work on another LinkedIn,
Mm.
right? So every platform is very, very different. Now when you are starting out, I always say that I love to follow the rule of 111. 111 is one platform, one target market, and one problem that you're trying to solve for them.
Mm.
So
I think that's a brilliant way to put it. Simple, very
yeah.
effective. I've made that mistake. Sometimes multiple kind of content, and though I handle that, but like you mentioned, it don't doesn't have to be in one platform. They can be targeted to different audiences.
Also, compounding only happens when you go all in on one or two platforms.
Mm.
Right now, my whole focus is Facebook and LinkedIn.
Okay.
I create a lot of videos, but I don't put it on YouTube. For the
Yeah.
simple reason, because I don't want to take off my focus from these two platforms to YouTube.
Yeah.
So I think, see, people are making good money just by using one or two platforms only. It's a
Mm.
myth that you can't make good money
Mm.
with just one or two platforms.
Yeah.
Obviously, when you're scaling up and you're going to the very next level, you need every platform and everything. But if you are in the beginning or in the even in the intermediate stages, you have not hit that saturation level.
Mm.
Facebook is brilliant for
Mm.
like all B2C products. For B2B, I still feel that LinkedIn is better. In my case, most of my clients, I mean, 90% of them, they're coming from Facebook. On
Okay.
LinkedIn, I've seen that maybe in long run, when your brand becomes very big, you might start getting some brand deals or something like that. But with Facebook, individual clients come, and they have a highly coachable mindset also.
Yeah, I completely agree, because I've had clients who signed up for my one-to-one programs, and I do elite performance for coaches, or people who want to become coaches as such, especially life coaches, parenting coaches. That's my niche. Or who want to write books, authors. They also reach out to me, and especially in the coaching domain, I prefer them versus random authors who want to become. And that's where I help out people. I mean, among other things. In fact, at this stage, I would like to share a link, a Google form for people to ask questions, and in case they like to connect with me, please do. Or if you like to connect with Taiba, just drop a in the form itself. You can just leave a note that you like to connect, and I can pass on this information to Taiba as well. And if you like to connect with me, if you like to know the kind of mentoring and support that I can give, then leave a question. My team will connect with you to understand if we can help you or not, and then we'll take it forward. So we are nearly ending, coming close. Before that, if you have any questions, please share and ask, and so that you can speeden up your coaching journey, speeden up getting clients, speeden up creating that kind of brand for yourself. Which, especially if you're struggling, if you're unclear, then now's the time to ask. So, Taiba, what things that, like you mentioned, the issues that clients come with, and what is the uh, one common thing that you tell them, you advise, like you mentioned about beautifully about this 111. I think that's a game changer for many people. I had this issue for a long time, where to post, and everywhere post, and we can't do it, and finally you want to give up because you're focusing on everything. So, what one thing that they can do from a content posting strategy? I mean, they have to post on one topic, but in the content style itself, what should they focus? There's so many things
So
people. Mm.
I have a very simple way of doing things in the sense that I have two or three pillars in my own, branding. So personal branding, organic lead generation, and storytelling. These are my content pillars.
Okay.
So I have a sheet wherein I have 10, 12 variations of the topics. So for example, I have like one structure called myths, then
Okay.
one structure called listicle, then one
Mm.
structure called wherein it's a story, then
Mm.
one structure which is contrarian, which is
Mm.
something like maybe I'm sharing a very different idea from what is the norm.
Mm.
Then there are reactive posts, meaning if something has recently happened or some news updates or something like that, you're sharing your opinion on that.
Mm.
So I have these different structures, 10, 12 structures. So what whenever some idea comes into my mind, so I take up one of these and I just share it. Mostly I try to storify the content. 99% of the time I try to share things in the form of a story, because
Mm.
if you see any ad or anything, in fact, if you see content marketing, there was a research that was done, and it said that companies or big marketing giants, their focus is only and only on stories.
Mm.
Because see, stories are the shortest bridge between two human hearts. When we share, so for example, let's talk about today only. Maybe you forget the entire discussion, but the story that I told you, you might have not forgotten that.
Mm.
You never forget that because of the emotional value of that thing. Because as human beings, we are emotional creatures, right? So
Yep.
I think the more stories you bring out, the better. Obviously sometimes you have to give some value post, and there's a framework also called tofu mofu bofu. Tofu is the top of the funnel wherein you share the general content ideas, meaning, for example, if I'm into personal branding, so something which is general, some general trend, something which is the generalized topic related to personal branding that I share. Then Mofu is middle of the funnel where you share about how, let's suppose, 3 steps to build up your personal brand, or how to share stories in 6 steps. Like
Mm.
you're giving some kind of value, that is the middle of the funnel, and then is the last, that is Bofu, that is called bottom of the funnel, where you share your offerings and mainly your testimonials, your case studies,
Nice.
because now you're bringing people. So two each, if you do tofu 2 days, mofu 2 days, tofu 2 days, it's good.
Okay. So are you talking about in the same platform they're doing all this, or they're doing
Yeah.
it to their audience created in different
Yeah,
places?
so there are six. For example, I post 6 days a week.
Mm.
So I don't see it. I don't divide it like, okay, 2 days like this, 2 days. Uh, but I mean, this is a good way. If you share one testimonial every week, it builds up your trust like anything. If you share one or two value posts wherein you share your exact step by step process of doing something, it is again good. And then some general stories, some general things
Okay.
people love. Because see, again, people like variety. They
Mm,
don't want the same kind of content every day. Too much of gyan on social media is also very harmful to coaches and anyone in general.
mm,
Because see, we in the modern era, we are in the era of edutainment.
mm.
We are not in the era of entertain. I mean, we are not in the
Education.
era of gyan. We
Mm,
don't want a lot of gyan. We want little bit of gyan, little bit of entertainment, and that is why I advise my coaches also that please don't give a lot of gyan to people, because everywhere Google is full of gyan now. There's Chat GPT, there is Quora, there are so many sites which is giving so much of gyan. So please try to connect first, and slowly and steadily people will, start finding that authority. But see, if somebody is really serious about learning something, they will enroll into your program. Why they will read such long post? And I did these mistakes my own self.
mm.
Back in the day, I would give away my entire sales process, this process, that process. But at the end of the day, I realized those posts had the least amount of for the comment. And
Okay.
then I realized that, whenever I share a story, people connect like anything. In
Mm.
fact, one of my first posts that went viral was I shared a story.
Okay. Nice. So that kind of, comes back to where how important stories play, and our memories also like that. We remember only stories of our life.
Right.
So we don't even remember what we studied, any of the topics, unless of course we ratified so much that we remember. Otherwise, it is the stories, talks with friends, or some moments in your neighborhood or growing up, this and that. Those are the memories we kind of remember. Yeah.
Right. And if you see all big companies, they're selling products at the end of the day through stories only.
Yeah.
Whether
Very
you're selling some diamonds or Maggie noodles or whatever,
good.
we are all doing it through nostalgia, through memories, through stories at the end.
Yeah, I think it's very well captured. I think you really hit the nail on the spot that the big names are doing. All we need to do is learn from them, take those lessons that they're already doing, and implement it in our lives. I think it's been an amazing session, Taiba. It's been a massive learning for me. I hope for all the viewers who are there tuned in, I hope it's been given you some breakthroughs, if not more. And thank you so much for tuning in, being here with us. I've left the form to ask me a question or connect with me and or with Taiba, and I know I'll be happy to connect with you and help you in your journey, whether you want to be an elite performance coach, whether you want to get personal branding advice from Taiba. We are here to help. Do connect with us. And don't forget to like this session. Don't forget to share it with someone and leave a comment. And every Wednesday, we'll be having some session, inviting some guests. And thank you, Taiba, for joining me here today and sharing all these wonderful insights.
Thank you so much for having me over. It was a pleasure sharing all my, insights, whatever I could share. I love sharing my knowledge, and it was a treat for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And Taiba is there on LinkedIn, very active. I've shared, and we will be sharing again later the links in the comments. So feel free to connect with either of us. Thank you, everyone. I'm Captain Preetham Madhukar, founder of Skills Beyond Education, signing off.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Bye bye.